Here we are at Queen's Park. We're just outside of the legislature in downtown Toronto. There's all kinds of monuments around Queen's Park South and Queen's Park North, 51 of them in all, some really neat statues and memorabilia for you to check out. There's all kinds of great things to see inside as well. We're going to head inside now. So here we are in the 4th floor on the west wing at Queen's Park. This is the marble side of the building. As I was mentioning earlier, this was the side of the building that burned to the ground. When they rebuilt it, they built it in marble. And that's not going to burn down, hopefully. One of the unique things that is here on the 4th floor, looking up towards the Hansard, which is the area where they document everything that's said in the legislature, is a stained glass window. And it's very, very bright up there because of that stained glass window with the Ontario seal on it as well. So it's one of the unique parts of the 4th floor here in the west wing at Queen's Park. So we're moving out of the marble section in the west wing. We're now on the 3rd floor and we're looking down the hallway into the original wooden section. There's a lot of sycamore actually in this part of the legislature, built in 1893, the original portion of the building, and the portion of the building that withstood the flames that burned down the marble section in 1909. You can see behind me, this is where the official opposition, in this case the Ontario PC caucus, has its caucus boardroom. So every Tuesday from 12:30 until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we have our caucus meetings. Directly below it is the government caucus room, and then directly below that would be the third party's caucus room. So that's what takes place every Tuesday afternoon here at Queen's Park. Each individual caucus has its caucus meetings where all the elected members with some staff get together and talk about the various issues going on in the legislation that we're debating in Parliament. We also have a caucus lounge here where if you need a break, you can take a 5-minute coffee break or have a nice cold drink. There are a number of media offices that rent space here on the 3rd floor as well. The Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, CBC, Canadian Press, Toronto Sun, they all have office space that they rent from the legislature, and in some cases they have a full host of journalists that are reporting on the goings-on here at Queen's Park on a daily basis. Right now, I believe the Toronto Star has the biggest complement of reporters here at Queen's Park, and they're always in question period and always looking for a story, as a good journalist always is. So there's a lot of activity with the Queen's Park Media Gallery here. After question period, which takes place every day in the legislature from 10:30 until 11:30, you can find the scrum of reporters directly outside of the West Lobby as the ministers and the Premier are exiting question period to get the scoop of the day on the various questions that the opposition parties have foisted upon them during the lively debate during question period. So that's where a lot of the journalism takes place, is right outside the legislature on the 2nd floor. But as you can see, two very distinct wings, the marble section in the west wing, the wooden section in the original part of Queen's Park on the east side. Still here on the 3rd floor of the Ontario Legislature, and this is broadcast and recording services. This is where the crew records everything and captures everything that's going on in the legislature live on television, and then they'll rebroadcast it later in the day. So in the Quinte region on Cogeco TV, I believe it's channel 95. I know it's a different channel here in Toronto, but they're recording everything that happens in the legislature as it happens when it comes to question period and debate throughout the day. Also here on the 3rd floor, there is the Fathers of Confederation portrait, and it's directly over top of the Legislative Library, and it's a spot where people like to stop and take a look at Sir John A. Macdonald and the rest of the Fathers of Confederation talking about the Confederation of Canada, and it's a great portrait that's here. Everybody loves to stop and take a look at that one. Here we are on the 2nd floor at Queen's Park. We're looking directly east now, and at the end of the hallway you can see a security guard. There's also a lamp there outside of the office. That's the Premier's office. If that light is on, that means the Premier is actually in the office. As we just saw though, there were a number of reporters hanging outside of another office where a big meeting is going on between the Premier and the two opposition leaders to discuss fundraising reform here in Ontario. So the light is out, the Premier is obviously not in the office. As you can see, just outside the legislature, and we're not allowed to film in the legislature while the legislature is actually debating, which they are this afternoon. You can see through the floorboards how close that fire in 1909 came to burning down the chamber. It came right up to the entry of the legislature and the chamber, and through that opening you can see the charcoal joists that are just outside of the main doors to the chamber, and that's how close the fire came to destroying the Ontario legislature at that time. So we're on the first floor now, just outside the Speaker's office, and this is actually a miniature legislature. It's meant to provide a little bit of education for student classes that are visiting the Ontario legislature and informing them about what takes place actually in the chamber. So it's a mock-up, a miniature mock-up of the chamber. You can see the Speaker's chair at the end, the clerk's table in the middle, and then you have the Hansard table, which is where they record everything that's said in the legislature. And this would be the Sergeant at Arms, who's responsible for making sure that everybody is acting civilized along with the Speaker, and in case there's any disruptions, if any protests break out or anything like that, the Sergeant at Arms and the Special Constables spring into action. So this is just a little miniature look at what the legislature chamber would actually look like.